Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm Suhaila. I know it's been a long time since my last video and I've rethought what it is that I really want to do on my YouTube channel. So this series is going to be about women's health and the diagnosis that I have and that lots of women have. It's called endometriosis, and it is a really big struggle in my entire pubescent life, from the age of 11 years old when I got my first period. And it has gotten to a point that was really bad this year and is the reason why I didn't move forward with videos. I was struggling. I went through surgery. I'm struggling through fertility issues because of my endometriosis, mostly based on my experience and my own research to try to understand what it is that I have and why I've gone through the things I've gone through. All right, so let's get started. Endometriosis is when you have tissue from the endometrium, which is inside of the uterus, growing on the outside of the uterus. And these cause these small little cysts. And as you can see, there's these little black spots growing outside of the uterine. And with every period, it gets worse. You get lesions and scar tissue build up. And it really is like an attack on your entire reproductive system. Some of the symptoms that most women have when they have endometriosis is severe cramping. And then you get into the more severe case of endometriosis that you have more severe symptoms. So some of the symptoms that I experienced personally from the time that I was 11 was a lot of severe cramping, lots of bloating in my stomach, almost pregnant bloating. People talk about bad bloating on their period. I used to feel like what is happening to my body right now. Numbness in my legs. I would get to points where the cramps were so bad that it was like I couldn't feel my legs. My mom used to have to like squeeze my feet and my legs and like massage them to relieve some of the pain. Throwing up a lot, even the thought of food, the smell of food, sensitivity, really sore breasts, and just I would have fever sometimes. There was lots of different, I've had lots of different experiences with the pain of my monthly period since I was a kid. I was, always in the nurse's office getting sent home. I almost didn't graduate high school because of absences, because once a month I was attacked and I just couldn't get out of bed. And I've lost money at work before. It's been a lot, and we're going to get into more of my experience in later videos. But today I just want to give you like what is most common and what happens because of endometriosis. So now what's really alarming is the amount of women that suffer with this, their entire pubescent life and have to deal with endometriosis. So in the United States, 10 to 20% of women suffer from endometriosis. This is an alarming number for me. Another number I found is 1 in 10 women have endometriosis or are symptomatic to endometriosis, because the other thing is endometriosis cannot be diagnosed without a laparoscopic surgery with imaging done on the inside. Sonogram's not enough. They can see that there's scar tissues with the CAT scans and that, but they won't officially diagnose you with endometriosis until you've done this surgery to remove the endometrial tissue. It's very hard to be diagnosed with this. I've had endometriosis since I was 11 years old, and the word has been thrown around by countless doctors. Countless doctors have been like, she probably has endometriosis. But I was not officially diagnosed until this year in August, when I was 30 years old and got the laparoscopic surgery and officially had imaging and testing positive for endometriosis, because they found those little black balls all the hell over me. So it was not until I was 30 years old did they finally diagnose it. It is also suspected that 30 to 50% of women worldwide might suffer from endometriosis. So there are stages to endometriosis. It is ranked between stage 1 and stage 4. Stage 1 being, severe cramping and not much else, and having, a few lesions and endometrial tissue around the uterus. And then we have stage 4. Stage 4 endometriosis is what I was officially diagnosed with in August. So it is the most severe, the one that has the most side effects, and it means that the endometriosis has gone past the uterus and has built further into my intestines and all the way up into the diaphragm. So people with my case of endometriosis it's very rare. It's 1 to 2%. 1 to 2% of women suffer from stage 4 endometriosis where it can reach the diaphragm. So now I'm sure you're asking yourself, okay, why are women going through this? What's the research being done? What are the cures? So research on endometriosis is very, very spare. There is not a lot of funding put into it because women, it's periods. You can deal with pain. There's no other way. I have to curse because the pain I've been through is not fair. So in the 1860s, a researcher recognized it and called it chocolate cysts. The only thing that was accounted for this was that it caused severe cramping in women during their menstrual cycle when this information was found out. Then after the 1860s, besides knowing that this existed, it wasn't really named. It wasn't really given any time, any money, nothing. So the research for endometriosis is around 20 years old now. In the early 90s was the first time real research began with endometriosis and the understanding that some women do suffer a hell of a lot more than other women. And that's not to discount that periods freaking suck. But there are women who it just is a lot worse. And it affects their reproductive system. It affects their livelihood. I've lost countless hundreds of dollars on not being able to go to work. And it is the reality of my life. I almost didn't graduate high school because they were like, too many days off. And I was just like, there weren't days off. I was dying in bed. I wasn't cutting class. I know somebody who's very close to me is a midwife, and she was studying in midwifery school, and she talked to me also about all the theories around endometriosis. And the thing is that everything that surrounds endometriosis as a diagnosis, as a disease, is a theory. Nothing has been fully proved as to why endometriosis exists. There's no why somebody gets it over somebody else. The only thing that they have is that it can be hereditary. So the only way that doctors know and can help diagnose endometriosis is if a parent or an other family member, aunts, whatever it may be, have suffered from endometriosis as well. The main treatment right now for endometriosis is birth control. Birth control suppresses the growth of the endometrial tissues outside of the uterus. So this is one of those cases that when you're 11, no one in their right mind is going to put an 11-year-old on birth control. I mean, maybe it exists, maybe it happens, but because there's not a lot of research done, there's not a lot of solutions. Just the idea that we can suppress the growth from happening. But from 11 to 18, my growth had 8 years to grow. So it never really stopped my severe cramping. I was just able to control when I got my period. So if I had a final at school and I knew I couldn't miss that, I would take an extra week of birth control and get my period a week later so that I can make sure that I was okay to get into my seat in class. I failed countless classes because I just couldn't make it to class and I'd be absent and they'd be like, well, you're done with your absences, you're failing. And college was miserable because of that. I almost didn't graduate high school because of absences. So it's just a whole array of things that this has affected me in my life. And there's other hormonal treatments to help shrink the endometriosis that you have already, like Lupron, which is something that I was put on this summer, which is why my absence was so long, because it was a miserable process. It pretty much, Lupron, what it does is it suppresses your hormones and causes you to go into a menopausal state. So at 30 years old this year, I went through menopause for 3.5 months about. So hot flashes, knee joint pain, it was a hot mess. It was horrible. One of the worst experiences of my life, I think. But this also helps make the lining detach, make these things detach from the lining so that for the surgery, it's much easier to remove these endometrial cysts that happen, and they are able to do that without any accidental rupturing of anything. I hope with this video is to educate those of you who might have women in your life that are suffering, and those of you to know that you're not alone, and that I've been in so much pain my whole life, and that I'm feeling really hopeful towards the future and what research and treatments can come out, and that no 11-year-old girl will feel the suffering that I have felt. I'm going to talk about the entire fertility journey, and I'm going to carry you guys through it. I literally just started seeing a fertility specialist, and will be giving you guys insights of what that looks like, what my experience is. So far, it's been really great. I have a wonderful doctor, and I'm just hoping for the best. And I'm really praying for the best, and my whole heart goes out to anybody who has suffered even half of what I've suffered. I always felt so alone, and I hope that this helps in some way. You know, get you through it and fight for everything that you want. I've gone through school, I have a great job. You know, I've worked my butt off to get where I am, and I had to do that with once a month being completely immobile and not being able to do things and work my entire life around my period, something that's supposed to be so normal. So if you have family members that you feel suffer from this, send them my video, send them, learn about it, because it's always helpful. It's always so great to have understanding, because so often women being in pain like I have been are looked on as weak. Oh, you can't handle your period once a month. And so often women of color's pain are discounted and acted as though it's different things, and we're going to get into that in my doctor episode, because a lot of doctors said some wild freaking things to me. And especially if there's young girls that you know who are going through this, if I was 11 and had this would have meant the world. That's my truth, and I hope I can help. So please subscribe, ask me questions. I'm going to try to be as open as possible, although it's as difficult as this is. All right, I'll see you guys next time.